All right, welcome in. Cube Show Podcast, College Football Podcast. Usually coming to you on Sundays. Couldn't get it done this week. Had some family stuff, but we're here with you now. We're going to recap the College Football Playoff Semifinals. We know who our national champion is going to be. National championship game is going to be now, and obviously that's going to be Ohio State and Notre Dame. I think it'll be a good one. I think it has a chance to be an all-timer. But I also think there's some ways that it could get loose and maybe get a little bit out of control. We'll get into that one. Going to preview it on Thursday. Thanks to Prize Picks. They're going to bring you that final installation of our College Football Playoff preview show. So that'll be our last one as we go into that one. And then Sunday, we'll be back to recap it all. And then we'll start going into some of the bowl games from SEC teams and spend some more time on the portal. But I want to recap these two games, go through what we saw. I was at the Orange Bowl. Awesome scene. Great game. Fans showed up. It was just a great environment. You don't think you're always going to get that in a neutral setting, but we got it. We'll get through all of it, explain it to you, as you know, each and every week. Brought to you by Wickles Pickles. Wickedly delicious. We always have them right here in the house. We snack on them. We love them. The kids get into them. We use them for appetizers, other different things. If you want to see other ways to use them, go to their Instagram page at Wickles Pickles. They got a lot of different ways that they use them, a lot of different recipes, things of that nature. It's great. We appreciate Wickles Pickles sponsoring the show. So please take care of them and go check them out. All right. Notre Dame, Penn State, Orange Bowl. What a game. Classic. There were numerous moments in this game that I thought both teams were left for dead and then ended up battling back and making it what it was late, which was just a nail biter. Came down, thought we were going to get overtime, and then a big mistake from Drew Aller late in that game obviously doesn't allow it to happen. The Penn State offense, I thought Andy Koldnicki called a really nice game. He didn't get too cute, didn't get too creative. And I thought he was a little bit handcuffed by some of the things that happened early on. If you go back and watch last couple games for Penn State, I want to say let's just stay with the playoff. So the last couple playoff games, Penn State, you pull up that SMU game, you pull up that Boise game. Drew Aller was great dropping balls in. Sort of those fadeaway threes, if you will, and the lobs down the field. Had two against Boise in the corner. The one touchdown over the middle of Tyler Warren was a nice throw, but that's not one of the ones that I'm referencing. Had two down the field against SMU, same way. He had multiple looks at these type throws early in this game, and he missed them. Overthrew a couple, had a couple go wide. And I think as that game went on and he was missing these, I think they kind of looked at it and said, all right, we might need to find some different type throws to get into, because based on the way Notre Dame was playing defense, specifically with what they moved to later in the game, you needed to challenge them down the field. Penn State did not. Now, looked like they had the game wrapped up, and then obviously we're always in the game. So how much risk do you want to take? How risk adverse are you to a quarterback who might be a little bit off trying to push the ball down the field against a secondary that leads the nation in takeaways? So that's a tough sort of back and forth of, here's the look, we got it. We're doing okay in the game, might not need it and can get out of here with a win. Or do we just take our shots and go for it? So that's why I think you saw a lot happening with the tight ends in this game. It was a lot more underneath. It was a lot more high percentage throws. Here's what the wide receivers for Penn State did in this game. Harrison Wallace III caught a throwback on the final play of the game when you're pitching it all over the place, and that's it. That's the only one. It's for -3 yards. Tyler Warren, 6 for 75. Nicholas Singleton out of the backfield, 2 for 33. Khalil Dinkins at tight end, 2 for 21. Luke Reynolds at tight end, 1 for 7. Katron Allen caught one ball for 6 yards. That's it. Imagine being in 2025, the year of our Lord, as some people state, and today's college football not completing a pass to a wide receiver in a college football playoff game. But that's where we were with Penn State. Now, they ran the ball fairly well, 42 for 204. And there were multiple drives that they got this thing going. And then just before the half, Penn State goes on a 15-play, 90-yard drive led by inside zone and gap schemes that it just, once again, did not feel like Notre Dame was going to have an answer for. So what does Al Golden do? He knows this is a problem. He knows this is an issue. They're hanging on by a thread. They're beat up. Al Golden goes out and says, screw it. We're going to play man. Our safeties are going to fly down to the box, and that's about going to be it. If you beat us down the field, so be it. But I can't let this continue. And it wasn't necessarily a halftime adjustment, but I feel like after that drive is when Notre Dame really got into it and said, we got to have extra bodies. It's the only way we can take this away. I thought Rubio had a good game up front. Hines did some nice things. Howard Cross did some nice things. And you're going to look at the box score and you're not going to see those names, but It's guys fighting through a combo block on inside zone and forcing it to bounce just a little bit more, or down near the goal line, fighting through a double team and not letting the ball get into the end zone, let your teammates come help out. Those are the kind of things that I thought those gentlemen did extremely well in this game. What Notre Dame maybe did not do a great job of in this game was get to the quarterback. I thought the Penn State protection was pretty good most of the game. Only one sack for Notre Dame, and that was from Rod Hurd the second. So you had a DB that was basically coming up and trying to put pressure on the quarterback. The front four for Notre Dame, which had been great, not as good in this game. I did think that Kingston Viliamu had a couple of nice pass rushes off the edge, got good push, good bull rush. They did force Drew Aller to move a little bit. They affected the pocket. They impacted him in the pocket. They just didn't really get him to the ground. And he left the pocket once or twice, had a couple nice scrambles that kept things alive. But that Notre Dame front had been dominant, specifically when rushing the passer for the majority of this playoff. It wasn't really that. So Penn State's got the run game going. They got their tight ends involved, even had great blocking from the wide receivers. Julian Fleming had one block to spring a touchdown, and earlier on that play, I believe it was on fourth down, he had a really nice block to allow a ball to get to the outside and pick up first down yardage. So it was a collective effort of going out there trying to be physical. The first question that I had is, where was Tyler Warren the first couple series of the game? Like, I want to go and I want to stamp it in the ground right this second that 44 is going to be a problem, and you better find ways to deal with him. I want those guys thinking about him early in the game. I feel like it took him a little bit too long to get him involved. I thought Singleton and Allen both ran the ball well. Mentioned it earlier, caught the ball out of the backfield, had a couple of opportunities in or near the red zone that you didn't come away with touchdowns. That ended up being big. I mean, keep in mind, this game was 10-3 at the half. Points were going to be at a premium. And then all of a sudden they exploded to make it a 17-14 fourth quarter, which was a totally different game than what we saw for the first three quarters. I thought Drew Aller was a little bit off, and I thought that impacted the play calling, and I thought obviously it impacted the game because I feel like Notre Dame was even more comfortable saying, we're going to play man, and our safeties, Xavier Watts and Jordan Clark or company, are going to fly down and be able to help against this run because Notre Dame, once again, I've said for a while now, they're the best tackling team that I've seen collectively on film, tackled extremely well. Now, was there a screen early that went? Was there a couple of runs that busted through? Yes, there were, but collectively, all in all, they got ball carries to the ground. I felt like that kept them in this game, honestly, because if you don't get those, you're going to have a hard time finding offense on a regular basis. So I thought Penn State's offensive line held up well in pass pro, did a pretty good job run blocking. I thought Tyler Warren was as advertised. I mean, he looked more athletic in person, honestly, being there and seeing it. He looked more athletic than he does on film. And he looks pretty damn athletic on film, I can tell you that. But the one where he scrambles to the left and the stiff arm, you're just like, dude looks like he could be a full-time quarterback if he wanted to. But the wide receivers for Penn State, not enough separation, balls that were missed that could have given them some opportunities down the field. But I'll give Penn State credit. Like, they got punched in the gut a couple of times and they bounced right back up off the mat and kept fighting back and kept finding ways not only to stay in this game, but take the lead in this game, specifically late. But Notre Dame, if you want to talk about fortitude and you want to talk about the ability to bounce back, this is unlike anything I've ever seen. One, the injuries that they've overcome. Two, the way that they were down in this game. Like I said, they get the 3 points before halftime, and you're thinking, is that even enough? Like, that might be just the microscopic ounce of motivation to be able to keep them in this game because it felt like it was over. Notre Dame fans a little bit flat near halftime in this game. We sat down in the corner where Penn State ran out, and we were up in the booth looking down, and I can tell you the Penn State fans were there early. They were mostly in white. They were loud. I mean, they were really loud, and it took the Notre Dame fans a little while to get going behind them. But both sides going back and forth made it a great environment. Orange Bowl did a nice job. And I was impressed with the Penn State fans, I'll say that. I didn't think they were out physical. I didn't think they got pushed around. I'm not going to say that they pushed Notre Dame around, but this game for 3 quarters was exactly what we thought it was going to be. A literal heavyweight fight, toe-to-toe, like you line it up, give me your best shot, I'll line it up, give you my best shot, and we'll just see who goes down first. And not a ton of mistakes in this game when Penn State had the football. But on the other side, there were a couple of mistakes, and I think that's when you looked at it and said, don't know if they're going to be able to overcome these. So you're out there and you're watching this team, and Riley Leonard gives you a pick early in the game. And then Obviously, the other interception late in the game, you thought sealed it for Penn State because they had the field position right there to be able to slam the door shut. And I mean, I talked to one of the Notre Dame linebackers after the game and just asked him, like, how do you continue to bounce back? I mean, what were the conversations like when you come off the field and now you're right back on the field and Penn State's in scoring position? And he just said, man, I'm going to tell you, like, we just take coach's word every week. We take what he says, what we're going to go by. And like, that's just how it's going to be. It was Drake Bowen that I talked to after the game. And he said, whatever our plan is, we put it in place. We stick with that. We go. He's like, we believe in each other. We believe in the guys next to us. And we were never phased. Actually, so there wasn't even a lot of conversation about it. We just knew we had to go get a stop. And then on top of that, with Riley Leonard coming back in to throw that game, he goes out of the game. So Jeremiah Love, it's tweeted out that he's going to be like 75, 70% for the game. I watched him in warm-up, had the brace on. Didn't look like he was moving near as well as he normally would. And then late in the game, he's running through people like Adrian Peterson. I mean, the dude just was running with some serious meat on and had an awesome game. Showed you kind of what he's all about. You also lose Anthony Knapp in this game, starting left tackle, who wasn't supposed to start before the season. And because of injuries to Charles Jagusaw, all of a sudden he's a starting left tackle. Well, then Rocco Spindler goes out at right guard. You got to find multiple extra offensive linemen. And one of those guys was Charles Jagusaw, who goes in at right guard, who had 2 huge kick-out blocks down near the goal line where he's pulling out and busting a guy out of space and allowing a little bit of extra room for a touchdown run for Notre Dame. I mean, this guy has not played a regular season snap this season. Injured before the season. Now back, dressed against Georgia, and here he is in a meaningful role for Notre Dame, going out there, making plays from his guard spot, allowing them to go win the football game. So Riley Leonard goes out. Steve Angeli comes in. And you're thinking, number one, who is Steve Angeli? We hadn't heard of this dude. Number two, bet they're going to go out there and hand the football off 11 consecutive times until Leonard can get back in the game. No, actually not. Mike Denbrock comes out there, and this kid's pitching it around, throwing darts. I mean, he's accurate. He's getting the ball out on time. He looks confident. It was wild to see. And then on top of that, when I talked to Steve Angeli after the game, I said, did you feel like, you were just going to come in, hand it off? And he was like, no, because that wasn't really the game plan. He goes, my thought when I come in the game is I run the offense. And I knew what was there based on what I had seen and what I had been watching. So I was just going to kind of keep that there for the rest of the time. And that's kind of how it went. But he deserves a ton of credit for coming in a massive spot, in a massive game with so much on the line, keeping his composure, delivering some plays, moving the offense a little bit. And let's just say it, not tanking that thing, like not giving the football to Penn State, not giving the game to Penn State where a ton of backups would have, because he wasn't phased. It was extremely impressive to see what he did. Now, Notre Dame only runs the ball 42 times, 116 yards. Love had 45. Riley Leonard, 18 for 35. But he had a couple of big runs in this game to continue moving the sticks. And as we stated last week, it's not all about the direct runs. Sometimes it's about his movement in the pocket with the threat to run to be able to open up different throws. And, of course, one of the massive plays of the game, Jaden Greathouse, late, Riley gives him the little slant. DB falls down, one-on-one with a safety, makes a safety miss, and he takes it in for the touchdown. 54-yard touchdown late in the game to put Notre Dame up. And, I mean, it's just you get that play, then you get the field goal that puts Notre Dame ahead. You get the Riley Leonard interception in which that should have been ball game for Penn State. And it's just kind of this back and forth heavyweight fight. And you're thinking, I don't know which way this thing's going to go now. And all of a sudden, here comes Mitch Jeter to put Notre Dame ahead for good. Penn State gets one last go at it, but that wasn't going to happen. You think about Mitch Jeter too, like he gets this game winner transferring from South Carolina. There's one point in time, there was 3 of 11 this team was on field goals this year. So they overcame that. Riley Mills out on the defensive line. No problem. Xavier Watts goes out against Georgia. No problem. You lose your best corner first third of the season. No problem. Got a true freshman that looks like he's 6'8" out there playing corner that's locking people down. It's just the adversity for this team. Pat Coogan, who's starting at center, he had never played center going into this season. Like he wasn't supposed to be their starting center. Cooper Flanagan, tight end, was out for this game. Jeremiah Love out for half the Georgia game. I mean, it's just one thing after another, and it just doesn't faze them. Just the next guy up. They keep running their offense. They keep running their defense. They keep doing the things that they do. And it's why I think they're going to be a handful for Ohio State. But I do want to give props to Penn State. specifically on defense. I thought Abdul Carter really impacted the game, and I didn't think it would be that great, not because of him, just I didn't think Notre Dame would sit in the pocket a bunch to even let him, but he was actually pretty good against the run. He did some really nice things. He's going to leave to go to the NFL, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Really didn't even know how much he was going to play or how effective, what percentage of health would be. He had a great game. Kobe King, 41, downhill thumper. Thought he had a big game. Thought he really affected things. He changed some things. I thought 13, Tony Rojas struggled a little bit out in space, misread some things. And Notre Dame did a nice job with misdirection sort of in the run game, and they give you the different looks where you can read it. Riley Leonard can go RPO. There's a lot of ways they can make you wrong. But I thought those were a couple of the good games that I saw that I watched. And like Eli Raridan, tight end for Notre Dame, came in, did some good things. Like he had to get some big blocks in there, and he did. Jack Kaiser was flying around for that Notre Dame defense again. Jalen Sneed had a really nice game, did some good things. I mean, it was just one of those games that you almost don't want either team to lose. And I believe if you went, kind of to this show a week ago, we said that it was going to be a game that possessions were going to be critical, points were going to be at a premium. So probably whoever made the big mistake. And you looked at the first two playoff games for Notre Dame, 98-yard touchdown run for Jeremiah Love, 98-yard kick return after the strip sack fumble that led to a touchdown. Like it seems to be that one or two play in series and swing for this Notre Dame team that just finishes people off. And it took a little longer and it happened a little bit later. But I'll tell you this, the way Penn State was running the ball late in the first half, early second half, and some of the things that they were getting away with defensively, a lot of teams laying down right there. A lot of teams aren't going to finish there. A lot of teams are going to say, you know what, the hell with this. Like this is not our night, and go through the motions the rest of the way. Also, some of the things that maybe you carry into this week, Penn State out on that edge, a little bit high risk, as we talked about. Wanting to jump around blocks, kind of play around, play underneath, do some different things, be a little bit athletic, and worked against them some. That's where some of those Notre Dame runs started to open up just a little bit later. But this was a fun game to be at, great game to be at. Physicality was there, minimal mistakes, and I thought both teams just brought it, man. I thought both coaching staffs had to make some pretty big adjustments throughout the course of the game. We mentioned the Notre Dame defense just basically saying we're going to play down. Notre Dame offensively, you got to put a backup quarterback in. You got to change some things there. The run game doesn't get going until late. You're subbing offensive linemen in and out. That's not a comfortable place to be. And then for that Penn State offense, like I said, just Drew being off a little bit early, I really do think changed maybe what it's all available, but what they thought was available, and they got away from it and could have probably given them some explosive plays a little bit later in that game, but they couldn't take it. Like they couldn't find a way to do it and couldn't take it. Don't forget, we're brought to you by Blue Delta Jeans. Blue Delta Jeans, premium denim, most comfortable denim you'll ever wear. Had them on at the Orange Bowl, and they're cut just for you. So they're going to fit you, your body shape, and everything about you. They can do that digitally now as well. Gift cards available. Just go to bluedeltajeans.com and see what they have, see what you might want. Let Nick and the guys take care of you, because I promise you, you're never going to regret owning a pair of Blue Delta jeans. BlueDeltaJeans.com. Tell them you heard about them right here on Cube Show. All right, let's go to the Cotton Bowl. Texas, Ohio State. A lot of people thought this was going to be a score fest. Both defenses, I thought, played a little bit better than people imagined. Once again, a game that came down to some mistakes, and that ended up being the end of it. Will Howard, 24-33, 289, a touchdown and an interception. Thought he played fairly well. Ohio State had some drops. There were some throws of his that were close. He took a couple shots that not balls you're really supposed to catch, not routine, but had opportunities to make some of those plays. I thought he had a lot of time in the pocket. Probably my biggest surprise of this entire game was how the Ohio State offensive line held up against the pass rush, specifically Moore and Simmons out on the edge. It's not that they didn't ever get home, but I thought consistently they were going to be able to get there. Had 2 sacks. One of those came right up the middle. I thought Vernon Broughton, 45, Alfred Collins, 95, played really well for Texas in the middle of this defense. If you go back and watch it, the majority of the Ohio State rushing yards came out on the perimeter. Now, there's a couple of times where they would call power and Quinshon would hit that thing in the A-gap and it would just go north and south right at him. I did think that linebackers for Texas, a little jumpy, kind of out of position at times, occasionally. But Ohio State was forced to do a lot more underneath in the passing game, more crossers, more digs, because they weren't going to be able to get those shots down the field based on that shell that Texas was going to play with. I thought that for what you needed in this game, what happened in this game, you got about as good a performance from your defense as you could have imagined. Now, you go look at the rushing numbers, 24 for 81 for Ohio State, 289 through the air. And the guy that everybody thought was going to break you, Jeremiah Smith, 1 catch for 3 yards. Now, he didn't get a ton of targets like he has been the last 2 games, but it just wasn't there. You had 5 players with multiple catches in this game. So Chip knew he was going to have to move things around a little bit. There was a lot of visual deception. There were a lot of different moments where Chip's, pulling guys, motions, different things, but it felt like he went to that and away from that just a little bit. Because a lot of the run game should have been there. There were multiple plays off tackle, multiple inside-outside zone plays, even some counter power where it's blocked up fairly well and there's space, and a Texas DB would come up and make a play. Like Jahdae Barron came up and made a couple of those plays. Michael Taft came up and made a couple of those plays, like limiting some of the extremely explosive plays that normally Ohio State's going to get in those situations. But then right before the half, obviously you get the screen to Travion, which you go stop that thing. When he catches that football, it's like 4 blockers and then another 20 yards before a Texas defender. Not the spot you want to be in as a defense. But you're probably thinking, hey, 2-minute drill, push the ball down the field. They're in man coverage, so that's going to pull everybody out. It's a great call by Chip at that point in time, and they're able to find a way. I do think that Henderson and Quinchon ran hard. Quinchon acting as a lead blocker one time. I mean, he gets the pancake. Like, that was fantastic. But I thought that for what you needed to have and how this game had to go, the Texas defense gave you enough. Middle of the defense, problematic, other than the pass rush. Like, the front 4 didn't really get home on their own, and that allowed Howard a little bit more time to operate and be able to find Egbuka or Ennis or other guys, Carnell Tate, to be able to make plays and move the football. But it was a much slower paced game, much slower tempo, I think, than any of us really anticipated. But also, I think Texas anticipated getting home with 4. I think Ohio State anticipated being able to run the ball against a lighter box, and they couldn't do that, which was also there for Texas. Ohio State did not load things up in the tackle box. I mean, the yards were there for Texas to have. And I don't feel like consistently they found ways to run the football. Don't know if they stuck with it to the extent that you kind of want them to. But the Texas offensive line kind of being on different levels, not being clean with some of their combinations, different things like that, sort of didn't allow it. And that went to the backs out of the backfield. So Jaden Blue was your leading receiver, 5 for 59, not receptions, but yards. Your leading receiver from a reception standpoint, Quintravian Wisner, 6 for 42. One of the things that stuck out to me in this game that I thought was just odd, and I might be a total weirdo for saying this, I kept asking myself, why are the Texas receivers jumping to catch these footballs? Like, Bond had one that he dropped. There was another one to Matthew Golden on like a little corner route on the hash, and he jumped like 2 seconds too early. And I know, like, Quinn's balls probably don't get on you like in a hurry. They float just a little bit. Like, he has a very catchable ball. But I felt like Texas receivers left a ton of yards on the field jumping to receive footballs that, I mean, what do the Texas receivers do best? It's actually not even catch the football. It's catch and run. Like, that's where this group is elite. When you think about Golden, Wingo, Bond, even Silas Bolden, DeAndre Moore, like, catch the ball, make a guy miss, catch that slant, go. Like, that's where their real juice is. So while all of a sudden they're trying to be in the air to catch some of these footballs, it just didn't make sense to me. I thought Gunnar Helm played a great game, but the pointing thing was, I think that was massive. I think it was huge because that was a big momentum spot right there. And then a lot of folks are mad about the play calling near the goal line. I mean, I'm with you. I get it. Like a toss sweep into the boundary. I don't mind plays going to the perimeter because I like, if you don't think you can push people around to be able to force your way into the end zone when you're on the 8 or the 12 or the 4, whatever it is, then specifically when you get inside the 10, I want options. And I'm not talking about an option play, but I want to roll my quarterback with the ability to tuck it, go get north and south, float it, whatever it is. And I even like outside zone or toss plays to the wide side because that back can usually stop and just go north and south and cut it. It was an amazing play by Caleb Downs. Give him a ton of credit for that. I thought the Ohio State defensive line played really well. Once again, they just keep humming, man. Like, this group just keeps going and going. So I'm going to give you, Jack Sawyer obviously had the strip sack to end the game. that gets run back for a touchdown, which was just, I mean, it's an incredible individual play. One, to win off the left defensive side. Two, to get the ball out. Three, to recover the ball and then be able to go and score. It's just like there's a lot that has to happen on that play, and I give him a ton of credit. I'll show it to you here quickly and why I have a little bit of a problem with it. All right, so you have a 3-down look, and you have a linebacker walked up outside the defensive end. So you're going to slide the protection to that side. You guys know how much I hate slide protection. I get it. I understand it, but it does have its place. And here is fine if that's what you want to run. So watch when the corners line up in man-to-man. So he's up on the line of scrimmage. We're also into the boundary. Does this remind you of anything that we've talked about on this show before? Corner crash into the boundary. This has happened against Texas twice. Georgia did this in the first game and the second game. Both times, corner crashed into the boundary. It's the only time I've seen a corner crash hit this year. And I know I haven't seen all football, but none of the games I've watched or covered do I see a corner blasting the quarterback. Now, this is being perceived as super creative and Jim Knowles, like this mastermind. I think Jim Knowles is great. I think he's an awesome defensive coordinator. This ain't hard. This is a 3-down look with what is probably your point linebacker walked up outside the defensive end, okay, and you have that corner lined up. So watch Cam Williams, right tackle 56. His eyes, number one, are down inside. Number two, he's going to take that step inside initially. I don't know all about their protection. I'm not PFF. I don't pretend like I know everybody's assignment and everybody's calls, and I can just go grade it because I know everything. But why he's paying attention to something inside right here, when we are sliding the protection the opposite direction, that doesn't really make sense to me. The other part is DJ Campbell has got to go. Like, if you're going to slide, get out there. And I respect the fact that he didn't have an immediate threat, so he wanted to help his center. Great. You can physically do that, but your eyes have to be in that gap now, right this second, because you don't have time to react and then retrack and try to replace where you should have been. That's obvious with what's happening to Cameron Williams right here. You can take that you can take that quick post inside, but there's no way you're going to be able to get the depth and width and be able to get back and block Jack Sawyer, who has a nice little hand move.
And Jack Sawyer played great. He deserves a ton of credit for what he did in this game, in the plays that he made. But I want to take you through this one specifically, the strip sack fumble, and just some of the protection issues that Texas had. All right, so we will start with Jack Sawyer. You see him lined up out wide, and you look at kind of how you're going to have to take this set. You feel like there's probably going to be a speed rush right here, but you got a linebacker walked up in the B gap. Not your responsibility. That's the guard's responsibility. Center's going to take the defensive tackle, and then you're going to take that defensive end. It's hard to see from right here, but there's a quick little jab step, and you could see it on the Skycam view that ESPN had. I think I had that shot, so maybe we need to go with that angle here, and I'll show that one to you instead. But that little jab step inside that's worried about the linebacker with your eyes inside, which, again, that's not your responsibility. It's a 3-quarter slide, center guard tackle, all bumping out. And that little hesitation is going to give a defensive end, any defensive end, specifically one that's worth his weight, which Jack Sawyer is, the ability to get upfield on you. Now he's got the angle. He swipes the hand. Nice move. But this is not a ton of what Jack Sawyer did as opposed to what Cam Williams did, not being able to get deep, not being able to take a good set, and being able to body him up. I mean, if he swipes those hands and you bodied him up, at least you got a chance to recover and maybe push him by. But to take that jab step with your eyes inside, if you think you can recover, that's some Panay Sewell shit if you think you can do that. Like, there's not a lot of humans that can make that happen. So that's essentially how Sawyer able to get around. Now, he makes the play, gets the ball out, finds the fumble, runs it back. I give him a ton of credit. The Ohio State D-line played well. They did good things in this game. JT had a couple of wins. Tyleik Williams had a win inside. You saw Sawyer actually a couple plays earlier. He was bumped down and had a nice little win over the right guard, little inside swim move. So I wanted to show you that one and then just kind of sticking with some of the other things that have been problematic for this team this year. You go back and look at there was one pressure that I thought Texas showed that I kind of want to focus on because it's been an emphasis point for a lot of people. And I'll have John put that one up for you guys as well, and we'll take a look at that. You get an overload to the right. So you got a D tackle in the A gap. Then you have a D end with a linebacker locked up, but the corner's right there playing man. So he has to be considered a threat. So right now you're going to slide this protection to the right. When you do that, that B gap to your right or that A gap to your right is now yours. Your body has to be there. I know I hate slide protection, but as I said before, it has its place. Now listen, I'm not PFF and sitting here to tell you what everybody's responsibility was on every play and that I know all the rules and I know the assignments of the checks and whatnot. Like, I'm not doing that. But I know when you slide it, number one, that's an oh shit moment. Number two, you have everything that shows up in that B gap right there next to you. And I think that's part of the issue here on this play is, number one, yes, it's a funky look. It's weird. It's just 3 down with the backers walked up, 1 outside, 1 on the left B gap. You can handle this specifically when you're sliding it because the back's going to come over and take Spence 0 like that, or Simon. I'm sorry, that's going to be his man. So you slide it to the right. Now, DJ Campbell doesn't need to be following that defender back inside because his gap is right here. This is not, you don't man this up. So you don't follow your man. Now, this is where slide will get you in trouble, not being able to trade off some stunts because guys don't want to go with their man. But that's your first line of defense right there because that center's coming with you. Jake Major's going to be there. You have to trust him. So when you go in and then have to come back out, the quarterback's seeing that pressure right there. At the end of the day, all of this is, once again, you watch the right tackle, eyes inside, maybe looking for the football. I don't think it was that loud. But you're reaching for that defender, getting your arm swiped down, opening up your hips a little bit too early, and you get a direct line to the quarterback. So it's just the right tackle getting beat again. You can say that Jim Knowles is this defensive wizard, and I think he's a great coach. I think he's a really good defensive coordinator. This was just the right tackle getting beat again. So these are just 2 examples of, and by the way, that is a corner playing press man into the boundary. We've seen this story this year. This happened against Georgia twice. So I don't think this was anything that has to do with play calling. I don't put this on Sark. This is just execution. Like, you know who your man is. You got to use the right technique and fundamentals to get him blocked. And you cannot hesitate because when you hesitate, that's going to be a problem and bad things are going to happen. Give the Ohio State D-line credit. They played well. I thought there were a lot of spots in this game. The Texas offensive line played well. I'd like to see them lean on them down there near the goal line and for that to happen. But at the end of the day, big players make big plays in big games. Ohio State had more big players make plays in this game. Caleb Downs on the toss near the goal line, that was huge. Travion on the screen, that was absolutely massive. Sawyer right here. By the way, that Sawyer inside move, that was earlier to be able to force the longer play here where he was able to go get the sack. Like that had Wingo on a corner route. Maybe he jumps up and gets that ball. You don't know. Big players made big plays in this game for Ohio State. That was the end of it. That was the story. We could talk about all the schemes and the disguises and all the routes and the route combinations and the protections and the runs, but big players for Ohio State made big plays. That's why they won this game. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Please be back on Thursday. We're going to preview this national championship game, go through the position battles, go through some of the schemes, how they'll face off against one another. Going to be fun. Prize Picks will bring you that. Please like, subscribe wherever you are. Leave a comment of how terrible you think I am, and we'll be back Thursday. Sorry about the technical issues.